This is Book Public from Texas Public Radio. On this episode, I speak with Jacques Pépin about his latest book, The Art of Jacques Pépin, the cookbook. Just in time for his 90th birthday, The Art of Jacques Pépin brings together the master chef's 99 favorite recipes paired with his signature artwork spanning the last 60 years. The recipes cover all courses, including desserts. He also offers ideas for alternate ingredients for some of these recipes with that same kind, thoughtful spirit we've come to know and love from his PBS series over the years. These recipes are signature Pépin. That means they are timely, classic, delicious, and achievable. He's always been someone who presents his recipes with thoughtful context and endearing anecdotes. And throughout the book, there is gorgeous original artwork, painting, line art, sculpture. In this wide-ranging conversation, Jacques Pépin shares stories about his long career as a chef and his passion for art. They are inextricably linked for him, and now for the rest of us, too. It's easy to see why he always signs off with happy cooking. He brings a sense of joy to creating his recipes. That same joy is evident as he discusses his love for his painting, drawings, and sculptures too. Here now, my conversation with Jacques Pépin. So let me ask you first about The Art of Jacques Pépin, the cookbook. This is a book that has a dual focus on cooking and on painting. And you write in the book that you don't know really if one enhances the other, only that they live in harmony. I really like this. I like that you make the distinction and you say that food is evanescent and painting is not. How did you come up with this idea for this particular book?
Oh, that idea has been in my head forever. And, I have I think it's number 34 or 35 cookbook. And from the beginning, I've done some illustration in the book, not as much in this one. But, certainly painting, I have painting from the early 60s, 61, 2, 3. So painting has always been part of my life at different level. And here, I did a book in the 80s, two very large volumes called The Art of Cooking. And probably the book who sold the least of what I've done, probably the best book. I think it's the best book that I've done. We did 34,000 pictures, and we limited to two volumes of 1,500 pictures in each. And then I did The Art of the Chicken a few years ago, and I wanted to do actually just a book of illustration of chicken, but people asked me a recipe right away going with it. And so this time I came to The Art of Jacques Pépin, which is a mixture of, as you said, of my painting and my cooking. So it both satisfied me at different levels, but it does satisfy me.
I was so interested in reading about how with cooking, you said that if you make a mistake, you can correct it. And in painting, the correction is kind of a different thing. I like this duality because it says something to me about life, too, that there are some things we can correct, and then there are other things for which perhaps we might not so easily be able to course correct, and yet we still find a way through to paint over something and make it better.
Right. You taste, you cook, you taste. You taste, you cook. You cook, you taste. You built up a recipe, and when you have a recipe in your head, if you work in a restaurant and the specialty is, a chicken with mushroom, and so you're at the stove, you may do 12 of those orders during the evening, and each time it comes out exactly the same. It tastes the same, and that's the beauty of the restaurant and of your knowledge of cooking. But if someone were taping the 12th time that I do that recipe, not one time it would be the same. One time the chicken is thicker, maybe thinner, or you have your skillet is aluminum or stainless steel, or and so forth. And it's humid or it's not humid too. But those are almost automatic. You test, you adjust. You test, you adjust. So that at the end it came out the same. But as I say, in the detail, if you were to tape it, it would be different each time to a certain extent. In painting, it's different, but I am probably more knowledgeable about cooking than painting. I've never really taken the time to do the basic of painting, but in cooking, of course, I've been at it even longer. But both kind of carry a bit of the same idea for me. Sometimes when I start a recipe, I don't know exactly where I'm going, but after a couple of tasting, adjusting to, then I know where I'm going. So I shoot for that. And in painting, often I would start a painting and don't really know exactly where I'm going. But at some point, somehow, the painting take a hold of me, and I react to it. I add a color, or I add something, or a line, or whatever. So it's just a reaction to what happened at that time. I don't know if I make any sense.
Oh, it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
I love to read cookbooks and really enjoy looking at the photographs in cookbooks, but I have to say that in reading this particular book, recipe by recipe, and I did not miss the idea of the photos. It was almost like I have the dish in my mind's eye. I don't know if from watching your programs on television, I'm not sure, but it makes me think that even without the food photography and having, I don't know, this extra thing with the paintings, you have really given the reader something else to see because the paintings are so evocative, even just the painting of the squid. They're so evocative just on their own. So I just thought that that was something kind of magical that happens with this book, that you're going through it and suddenly you realize, oh, there are no photographs, there are no pictures to look at and compare it, the dish to the photo. And you
Right.
somehow do not miss it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Actually, at the beginning, and I think I mentioned that in the introduction, I had an idea of doing certain recipe match with certain painting, and it become futile after a while. It didn't work out. Uh, the only thing that I did, I said, I will pair the dessert with flowers.
Yeah.
So a chapter of dessert is paired with flower, but the other one, especially in the abstract and all that, I could not pair with a specific recipe. It's more of a feeling than anything else. I enjoy doing it, yes.
I like the flowers with the dessert in the dessert section. I like that. And the book is organized in these chapters that cover all the courses. This must be a terrible question to ask, Jacques Pepin, but what is your favorite kind of course to make? Is it the dessert?
Well, it depends what I am in the mood for, whether I have a hangover or not, whether it's summer, whether it's very hot or humid or whatever. And I'm in the mood. So I just made some carpaccio here because I have a friend who went fishing and he brought me a beautiful piece of tuna there. And though I was in the mood just to slice it thin and it's hot today, humid, a lot of seasoning, and to do little carpaccio out of that. So again, often, often the recipe or the food itself, not the recipe, but the ingredient, take a hold of you, and you go into that direction. So certainly, if I have a tomato out of my garden here and it's nice and ripe, I cut it and with a bit of olive oil and coarse salt on top of it, and don't need more embellishment. That is just right. So and that also changed. I mean, I don't really felt that way 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. This is something which I'd always wondered. I have some painting in France that I sent to my mother or even here, painting that I did 40, 50 years ago. And I look at them occasionally And I tell myself, I wouldn't be able to do that today. I don't say that it's good or it's bad. It's just that I don't feel this way. So it's interesting the way I was at that time. And I would love to be able to test recipe that I did 50 or 60 years ago. I would probably be very surprised by the taste. But of course, the food is very evanescent. You know, you do it, you taste it, and it's gone. You know.
Yeah. I loved reading that in your book where you talked about how you would go back and look at something that you had painted before or written before, and you had no real memory of it, but you were like, wow, that's pretty good. You know, that is such an interesting way to look at our work and our past and the different phases of our lives where we've been. I I really enjoyed reading the descriptions before each recipe, and you offer what I'll call, I guess, very forgiving suggestions for people who can modify certain ingredients. And I think sometimes the thoughtfulness around allowing for modifications comes because you are also frugal and you don't like to waste anything. I always think about on your programs, I learned this from you, where you have the stalk of the broccoli and you do not throw that away. You peel it and you
Part of
get
it.
to the tender part of it.
Yeah, that's the best part of it.
That
Yeah.
is the most delicious part. And I think today, because everything is so expensive,
Yes.
here in Texas, any shoulder roast at the grocery store is $9 a pound. It,
Yes.
for one example, it's just such a great thing to know how to cook, how to do so in very thoughtful and frugal ways. And your cookbook, and this, it's not just this cookbook, but you have this way of really encouraging your readers to be more creative, confident in the kitchen, and also frugal, and also learn the lessons around not just how to cook something, but how to do it very thoughtfully. And that's just something I really appreciate about you.
Yeah, thank you. But you know, I was raised during the Second World War,
Yeah.
and during the war, I mean, food was very scarce, and my mother was an extremely economical cook. You know, miserly, I would say. So I take a bit from her, and I don't throw out a piece of bread. I soak it and make a, you know, something with it, and certainly what my wife called fridge soup was, you know, I open the refrigerator and I have a wilted lettuce here and a piece of carrot and a piece of this, that too. All that goes into a pan, water, salt, and I made a soup out of it, of course. You know, yes, it's against my senses to waste food, you know, so yes.
And you mentioned your mother, and I know that so much about your cooking is really almost a tribute to your mother and the things that you learned from her. I remember watching the programs where your daughter was your co-host.
Yes.
I love that series, and other episodes where your granddaughter joined you too.
Yeah.
And those were also very emblematic of the ways that you were providing almost lessons for us about how communal it is, how familial it is, and I just love that about your programs.
Thank you. Well, I did a book even with my granddaughter called A Grandfather's Lesson. And I think we taped it, but it wasn't too good, so we did not, it never went on the air, you know, in shows. But it was fun for me to cook with her. And when I cooked with my daughter many years ago, I used not to tell her what we were going to cook. You know, so she didn't know anything of the recipe. And so I would do something and she'd say, wow, that's how you do that. Because she would know the recipe or remember having eaten at home, but not knowing how to do it. And a lot of people thought that she was faking it. She wasn't faking it. She didn't remember. You know, she'd say, oh, I didn't know you did that this way and that way. So that was good because she would have, in a sense, the reaction that people would want to ask if they were able to ask me at that point. So we had a good
Exactly.
time. It's good to cook with the family, you know.
Yes, I used to think about it that way, that Claudine she was sort of representing the rest of us. And as she was learning, even though I know she's a tremendous chef, as she was learning, we were also learning. And it was just so, it was just lovely. It was just so lovely. Now,
Good.
you evoke literary figures in this book, like Proust, for example. You are a polymath. You are someone with such wide-ranging knowledge about different things. And I wonder, this is the secret of your success, of your life. And also I wonder if next we would have, I don't know, a book of poetry by Jacques Pépin.
Oh, book. Yeah. But the poetry is in the cooking and in the painting. The point is that, when I was a kid, and certainly when I was in apprenticeship, and even for many years when I worked in Paris, and even when I was the chef to the president in France, at that time, the cook was really at the bottom of the social scale. And, I mean, it was another world, I remember for 2 years, as I say, when I was with the president in France, I was never interviewed once by anyone or any newspaper, magazine, or anything like this. I served people like Eisenhower, Nero, Tito at that time. No one ever would call you to the dining room for kudo. Are you kidding? That did not exist. The cook was in the kitchen, and that was about the end of it. So it has changed a great deal. But sometimes too much, I mean, sometimes the chef is like, a genius now. Well, we are still a mashed potato maker, I mean, you can't take it too seriously.
Well, one last question for you. I read The Apprentice, which is your autobiography. I watched the American Masters series program on PBS.
Oh, yeah, that was good. Yeah.
It was excellent. I know you have so many books. Do you think this cookbook is also like a chapter in your life story in some ways? And if so, what does it say about you?
Yes, I would say that. Yes, absolutely. It's a chapter in my life, the way my life is now, with maybe a certain simplicity in cooking that I didn't have when I did some of the book. When you're younger, also you tend to add and to add to the plate and so forth, and your metabolism change. And now I'm turning 90. I can to take away from the plate to be left with something more essential without too much embellishment. So again, this is part of a normal progression of a life. And so that book come about now. When maybe I crossed the bridge there where the painting become more important than the cooking. So I don't know. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to look forward to the next book too. Jacques Pépin, thank you so much for speaking with me. What a thrill.
Thank you for having me, and happy cooking.
Jacques Pépin, he's the author of The Art of Jacques Pépin, the cookbook. This has been Book Public from Texas Public Radio. Write to us at bookpublic@tpr.org. Jacob Rosati composed our theme music. Dan Katz is Texas Public Radio's news director. I'm Yvette Benavides.